Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Frederico van der Kellen. I'll be your host for today, and welcome to Remotely Speaking, the podcast that shows the challenges and opportunities of the remote world. Since our workday has dramatically changed, it became necessary for us to adapt faster than ever to the present reality. So, debating the topic remote has presented us with an urgent matter. Several talking points were chosen in order to enrich this podcast. So work, teams and career management, home office productivity, nomad life, work-life balance, and so on. So we really want to provide our viewers and listeners with cutting-edge information, tips, points of view based on each guest testimonial and experience. So don't miss our updates. So today we're going to talk about how to succeed in remote work. Okay? So now it's time to welcome Veronica Bodano to Remotely Speaking. She's here to provide us with her expertise, answer some of our questions, tell her story, and share very good pieces of advice and expertise about the topic, how to succeed in remote work. Just to give you a glance of Veronica's background, she's a best-selling author and sales leader at LinkedIn. She's currently working at LinkedIn in Dublin. Driven by a mission to help businesses evolve and adapt to a digital economy, Veronica has a lot of expertise in strategy, leadership, and of course, sales and business development. So here with me is Veronica. Veronica, thank you very much for joining us in our first episode. Not only because of that, you're already a special guest, but since it's our first episode, you're a very special guest. And we are really happy to have you here. And it's a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much, Federico.
No, thank you. Veronica, before we go ahead and start with our questions, tell us a little bit about yourself and what a bit of your story and present to our viewers and listeners.
Absolutely. First of all, you already did a great introduction, so thank you so much for that. Just to give you a little bit more ideas, I'm Italian, but I live in Ireland 17 years. I'm blessed with a beautiful child and a husband, a 5-year-old, so very, very active. And as you said, I currently work in LinkedIn as a sales leader. But before LinkedIn, I was very blessed to work in different roles and different industries. So not only the part of sales and business development, but also in business operations, strategy, and in company that could have been either very large, like Oracle, or smaller, like Sage. And one thing that I also love and think enriched me, I had my own business in the past in terms of international trade. But if I can say something, I think that's the professional side of me. And there is always two sides to all of us. So maybe for our listeners, something about me that is a bit more personal. So I love painting. I love poetry. I have a dream in my drawer that when I'm going to reach 100 painting and poetry, I'll do an exhibition. And as you said, through the pandemic, I tried to do something absolutely out of my comfort zone. That was writing that book. And the book, it's a collection of adversity that people face throughout the pandemic and within their life and how to overcome them. So it's inspirational. And I think it was very good to go in depth in what we were living, but also for me to feel connected with more people, because sometimes we feel we're really alone, but there is more people that they are closer to our situation than we think. So I'm really thankful to be here with you and all the listeners.
No, it's a pleasure to have you, and you're such your experience is super interesting and very enriching. And thank you for taking the time to be here and share that with us. It will be great to get some insights and inputs from you regarding this matter of how to succeed in remote work. So as moving on, and I would like to start this by asking one question, which is, what do you think are the biggest challenges of working remotely? So now we all know that working remotely has become not only a trend and a tendency, it's also part of our need to keep working, and we have to do it remotely because of all these changing times. What do you think are the biggest challenges of working remotely?
Absolutely. If I can start, maybe I would say something a bit shocking, but I think we are in a workplace experiment. Since the quarantine started, the lockdown started, I think we all are living this experiment where millions of people are being forced to work remotely. And if we rewind, many businesses were not thinking that this would have happened, if not in the later future. But suddenly, for surviving and also for keeping their people safe, they had to adapt and they had to change their operation to remote working. So within that, let's say there are two parts of it, like remote working. Half of the population nowadays cannot actually remote work because of their jobs and their circumstances and context. So excluding those people that there maybe are first line worker and they need to operate either with machinery or within close contact with people, let's look at the rest of the population. Of course, for a fifth of the population worldwide, remote working became the norm. So, and with this dramatical change in terms of cultural and technological barrier that have been pushed to the extreme, there are challenges. So you're totally right. If I could say which are the main challenges that I see and I lived, not only as an individual that I've started remote working, but also as a manager managing a team of salespeople remotely, I could say three are the top in mind. And for me, one is management of space and time and trying to separate the work life with the actual personal life. The next, because actually they're in the same roof, so separation is difficult. The next is about community and communication. I think we are human, like that human touch that we used to have going to the office and changing.
Yeah,
it's gone.
Definitely. You mean the human interaction, right?
Exactly. And then the last one, I think it's technology itself, because sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not working. Are we connected? Are we overly connected? So I say these are the three main categories that I see.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and taking that into consideration, what you just said in terms of the main three challenges that you find in remotely working, and you mentioned how to manage space and time, communication, and community, or the gap from the human interaction we had, and definitely obviously technology, that whether if it's working or not working. Transferring that or taking or from that context of what you just mentioned, what do you believe are the biggest barriers to remote productivity? Which is something we all need. We are all working remotely, and we have challenges on that, and that leads us to some of the biggest barriers, or some barriers that can arise from in terms of productivity. So, what would you consider to be the biggest barriers to remote productivity?
Yes, regarding that, if I maintain the three category and maybe I go a little bit in detail in them, when I think also about myself or my sales team and people that are really trying to manage well and having a good productivity, I think taking again the management of space and time, I think people need to have, and people that are successful are having a very clear schedule. Okay. And because the line is so blurred, like sometimes the roles overlap, and sometimes the natural distraction and that natural unplug that happens when you leave the office is gone. So people that actually have a schedule and they really not only manage the working schedule, because that's easy, is the personal schedule. That's, I think, people that succeed. And they remove a little bit that barrier, because ultimately what could happen is if you don't manage the two roles and the space, you could, and many people are experiencing burnout, because they're constantly on. So that's certainly a big, big barrier and a big impact for people. If we look then in terms of communication and community, I think there are things that we realized and we were not aware until the pandemic started. And the fact, even to be in the office and being in a common place, to meet people at the coffee stand, it was an opportunity of learning. It was an opportunity to share. And those opportunities are gone in terms of naturally happening, So what happened, and I can give you an example and a best practice that we're doing in LinkedIn, reps are missing that natural sharing that doesn't have to be scheduled. So now we need to schedule it, and the calendar are becoming more busy. But in order to make people enrich themselves with the sharing, we have created a collective brain. So across the different sales team in the different region, we come together once a month, and reps of each region on a specific topic, they would share the best practice. So communication community kind of rehappen with that, because you're learning. And if that's not happen, or we don't facilitate it as leader or people individually as professional, we don't look for it, we could stagnate. The natural growth that will happen could stagnate. Go on. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, I didn't want to interrupt you. It was in the same line that what you're saying was that the way we evolved has a lot to do with the human touch, and not only personally, but also how we connect professionally with each other. And when we are together, naturally, it's much easier to connect with that and exchange views and inputs. And so it's really important that we interact with each other in order to evolve more quickly or at a faster pace, right?
Exactly. And let's not forget that we connect in so many areas. So with our coworkers, with our leadership, but we connect with our customer, ultimately the human. So my last point about technology is a blessing in a way because it's helping, but sometimes technology doesn't work, doesn't play ball with us. Yeah. So I think technology has been an enhancer to allow us to work remotely in a way. It also been an enhancer because many companies had to digitalize very fast, and which means that the competition is higher. And it means that as a customer, I can find easier solution services and I have a wider offering. So from a sales and business development perspective, the barrier could be with the higher competition, like how do you gonna stand out? And when are you connecting to the customer? Are you really connecting with them? Because ultimately there is a barrier, there is a monitor. We're not seeing each other together. So it's really important for salespeople that they break the barrier of technology and they ensure that they connect with the customer. They use the human touch. People buy from people. So Are they connecting? Are we listening? Are we trying to be empathetic?
Definitely, and it's really interesting what you're saying, because also in our line of business, also when we talk about, and also myself as a trainer, as a coach, and along with our team of trainers, we always emphasize the fact that business development or sales, it's about building relationships with people. So it's really interesting that you said that technology answers a lot of questions, but in a way also raises a lot of questions that makes us reflect on, okay, what can we do in order to use technology in the best way possible, and at the same time not jeopardize the human connection that we need professionally with our customers, with our potential clients, with our regardless of the line of business we operate in, right? So it's really interesting what you just said in terms of the barriers, and that also leads me to my next question. Two questions actually that I would like to combine, and also not only for our viewers in general, but also particularly to viewers who are working in sales or business development positions. In your experience, Veronica, what would you consider to be, or how to succeed, according to your expertise, how to succeed remotely in business development and sales? That would be one of my questions. And a second question would be, if you could share some lessons learned during, let's say, the last year, or since the pandemic started, some lessons learned in terms of contact with clients.
Okay, thank you. Yes. First, maybe let me say something that was really interesting. And recently we actually looked this in LinkedIn. First of all, from LinkedIn stats, we're observing which are the job roles that they're growing and the top function that they're carried out remotely. And I have to say that business development and then sales are two of the top two exactly, that they're showing that that's the job that can be done in that way.
That fact.
It is extremely interesting. And going then to the succeed, okay, we said before even that competitiveness is rising, but also productivity is rising and there is a lot of stats that are showing that productivity specifically for business development and sales is growing. To give you maybe some numerical element, there is a proven numerically that working from home gives benefits in a way in terms of productivity. In fact, some of the latest studies on sales, on a sales pool, says that 77% of the people show greater productivity. 24% thinks, working like from home, I will to work a little bit longer hour if I can accomplish more. And 30% thinks actually I could accomplish more with less staying home. So for me here, it's success of working remotely is very much related also with the productivity, but is more productivity really equaling to success? And I think the growth in productivity has a little bit of double-edged sword here in this moment and in working remotely, because definitely in short term, this productivity growth is a success. But is it the same for the longer term, or is the longer term having more a negative aspect to it? A negative impact, especially on us and mostly on our health, because is this sustainable, what we're doing? And if we look at the current situation, the lack of mobility, we're putting more time into work, all of us. But is that what we should really do? Is it a concession that can really be maintained on long term? Just because we don't have so much social life, should we just give the place to work?
If it's sustainable.
Exactly. So if I can say, observing to what have happened to my sales team, observing to what I see with our customer, and looking also at the sales top people that I work with, and they have a good work-life balance, because I think that's key. You need to have a good work-life balance. Those people maybe have 3 major mindset to succeed in working remotely. And these could be lessons for people or action for people to consider. One, they plan and prioritize, and they're really disciplined in what they're focused on. And I'm going to be honest, this is not only focusing again on your daily job, but it's focusing on you as a person. Like the next is less with more. And it's not less with more just in general. It's with interaction with your customer, especially if you're in sales. Like, are you contacting them less, but when you contact them, give them more value? And the last point is be a joy to business.
That's super important. Just to add that, it's really, really important also for some of our viewers that are now struggling or finding challenging to reach out to clients or potential clients. Really important that you just said less is more, in terms of, you contact your clients less times, but when you do it, you focus on the relationship and you focus on adding value. So you call them, you contact them for a reason, right?
Exactly. Absolutely. And I'll give you a little bit more detail about that, because what I observe from successful salespeople, they prepare, they listen, and they think really how they can add value. So when you're engaging with your customer, are you engaging with them with interesting information, valuable insight? Why should I spend that time with you? So nowadays, less is more is when you're going to them, what are you bringing? And some salespeople, I noticed, they're really focusing way more on the bigger spectrum, bringing, for example, industry information, trends about the job role of that specific contact. And they're the customers say it, they're delighted because they felt that the time spent was an added value. They learned something, it worked for them. So I think that's something that our salespeople really need to do. And if I can give you the last, which kind of connect there, it's the be a joy to do business with. Because ultimately, you could be the first human interaction that the customer is having on the day. So imagine how important it is. Or you can be the 10th human interaction. So there, how do you differentiate? What creativity of innovation do you use? And that goes, again, adding value, but adding value even differently. So we know that digitalization is increasing the communication channels, but are you using, for example, and very successful salespeople use maybe media-rich content, a video. Instead of writing a long email, just a 2 minutes video. Wow, that could fulfill the human interaction. Or just send a report or a stats.
Or
I saw this.
Or something, yeah.
Exactly. So I think that's very important. And one more thing, I think, of being a joy to do business with, remember, because we don't have that human connection, barriers might be a bit higher in terms of relating to us with certain customers. So can we use the network of connection that we have? Because ultimately, all of us, we are a little bit suffering from decision fatigue. Do we going to do this? Do we going to engage in this? Is it so much? So if somebody would introduce you to that customer, so you leverage your network, that could be extremely powerful. That's already proving that somebody that you know and you value thinks that this person can help you. So leverage that, because it could be super important.
Thank you. That's super valuable, that piece of advice. Also, in the fact that when you mention adding value, it also takes me back to the mindset that's fortunately not all, but some salespeople might have, that whenever they contact a client, they have a mindset of thinking, okay, what's in it for me as a salesperson, instead of thinking, okay, what's in it for you? What's in it for him, for my client, for him or for her, for my client? So the mindset needs to be, okay, how can will I contact a client not in order to figure it out what I need, but what can I give? What can I provide? That's how you bond with your client or with your potential client, right?
Exactly. And nowadays, like most of the time is happening that you need to have multiple interaction and value added conversation before you can actually really talk about business. And there are different studies also around that the building rapport and the time to get to know the person is becoming even a longer time in that call, because you really need to fortify that to progress.
No, that's super. Yeah, go ahead.
I actually forgot, and I want to share something more for successful people in sales and business development, because I said it there, but maybe I don't feel I shared enough about it. And it's about the plan, prioritize, and be disciplined. And I think one thing that we're doing in LinkedIn, and again, is through the overwhelming feeling that we're having, being isolated, the possible burnout that some people are feeling, it's the self-care. And people in sales, it's a very intense environment. Business development, sales, very intense, high energy. So you could actually burn out. So self-care is fundamental. Put the mask on you. So are you taking care of your body, of your mind, of your spirit, of your emotion? And I think one thing that we're doing in LinkedIn that possibly I think many companies needs to take on board. And if they're doing it, employees, please take usage of it. Energy audits. Where is your energy? How is your energy in all these different spheres? Because sometimes your body could be perfect, but emotionally you're not okay. So understand how is your energy level, because by knowing your energy, focusing your energy right, that drives motivation and that drives success. So I think that's one other little sharing that I would like to do. And I think it helped me as a leader to understand much better when somebody in my team was okay or struggling
or overwhelmed by something, and also the different types of energy, right? As you mentioned, you and it's something that's internally in our companies that we discuss a lot, and we also train people on that, is the different types of energy and understanding those types of energy, whether if it's emotional energy, your physical energy that has to do with your nutrition, your exercise, everything, your spiritual energy. So what gives you a boost of energy throughout the day? So in order for you to manage your tasks in the best way possible and feel full, right?
Absolutely. And we get the teams. Some people want to treat these individually because it's very personal, but there is cases also where we do conversation across a team, and small advices, small tips, actually they could be transferred between them. and people could actually change the energy level by implementing some small easy tips that there could go across people, like etc.
Definitely, that's really, really important. Veronica, let me ask you one thing. Do you think that remote work came to stay?
Ooh. I think it's a bit a complex answer, a bit more complex than yes and no. Okay. And I think the complexity stands in the context and the background. And it depends the industry, the job, the country where you are currently working.
The culture of the company also.
Agreed, absolutely. So if I could say there are maybe 4 points that I taught about, and we need to consider. So first of all, we said half of the population cannot remote work because of the job and the way they need to fulfill their job. A fifth, yes, they can remote work very effectively, and it has been proven also via COVID that they can do it very effectively. Then, and one fact that I can give you is within that, and within the last year, we have the number of job offer in LinkedIn have grown by 2.4x in terms of job offer that has tag remote. So the economy and companies are seeing that a number of jobs, a big portion, can be actually executed remote. And if we look also at stats like the World Economic Forum and many more, they're saying that by the end of 2021, they feel that the permanent remote workers is set to double. So with all this in mind, yes, remote working is here to stay, but it depends in which sector, in which company, etc. But there is proven that there is a shift.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, I don't know if you agree with that, but if we think straight and if we look back before the pandemic, we were witnessing already a boom in remote work. Someone who is up to date of what's going on in terms of business would realize that. And when we talk about digital nomads, or so remote work was not something that just showed up after COVID. It just the pandemic accelerated the process, in my view. What would you have to say about that?
I agree, and I think there is a battle there that it's a bit. We're witnessing. We are part of it, all of us in different place and different role, and I think it's a bit of a battle between the leaders and the employee. Mm-hmm. I think remote working was there before, but for certain role, will it be there to stay? The leader, in certain cases, despite the productivity increase that they see, they're really strong worries that on the well-being and the mental health challenges that some employees are facing, because the changes in practice, in working practice, have been large. So I think there is a little bit of a doubt, and also I have to say, from my experience as a sales leader, maintaining the high energy environment remotely, it is more difficult. It's not impossible, but it is way more difficult. And to motivate your team remotely, you really need to, like, the environment that normally the team themselves can motivate each other, it's a little bit weakened. So as a leader, you might need to strive it a bit more. But it's not impossible, but absolutely you can do it, but it takes more effort. And on the other hand, I think from the employee side, I think employee really would like, many of them, that remote working in certain shape or form will become more available. And if I look at a study that was done about from LinkedIn,
choice.
Exactly, to have the choice. So there's been a very recent LinkedIn research is about work remotely. And it said that 70% of the employee on LinkedIn platform that have been surveyed, they say that ideally they would like remote working full time. And the benefits are huge: flex schedule, time with the family, working location, and many more. But again, the answer won't be yes or no, as we said. I think it would depend on the context, the company, the task. But honestly, remote working is not longer an experiment. It's happening.
Definitely. Last question I would like to ask is obviously having someone here with your experience, I couldn't let you leave without asking you this question. And as a salesperson and a business development person and as a sales leader, actually, what would be your piece of advice for someone who wants to start their career in sales or business development regarding of the business sector, given these times?
Okay. I would say
I know it's a large question.
No, it's a large question, but I will not go in the economical situation because I said it. They're striving. There is way more business development sales role coming up for remote. But I would just turn a little bit around the question, and I would say to our listener to ask themselves a question. Why do you want to do that role, a business development or a sales role? Why? Where and what? I would start with that.
With why, right? Very useful piece of advice, definitely. Yeah,
and the reason is many people do it for money. Sales is a very rewarding work, or other people do it for the love of helping customer. So which is your why? Is it important to know your motivator? And then the subsequent element is where and what. Not all sales roles are the same. So which is the industry that you're passionate about? What product solution you would love to help your customer with? And which company? Because we have startup, we have a large enterprise. So, and every sales environment is different. And you could strive better in one, better than the other. So I think sales, as I said, it's a very highly rewarding job. Some do it for money, some doing for delighting customer. But I think for anybody that is considering, understand your driver, and then you will excel at that. And then the first thing is you ultimately going to be a consultant. So do yourself a gift. Be a consultant to yourself first.
Definitely very powerful piece of advice in terms of finding their why first, and then where and what, where in terms of where they want to work and what do they want to do. But before that, a reflection on, okay, why do I want to do this?
Exactly. Because it could be very tempting, but is it really the right job for you?
Yeah. Veronica, thank you very much for your time. I would love to keep talking with you. We are running out of time, and thank you for joining us in our first episode. It was a pleasure to have you here. Definitely, we will be in contact. For our viewers, please get in contact with Veronica. Veronica is not only, as you can listen and see, a very approachable person, but has a lot of expertise and a big network. So get in contact with Veronica Bodano on LinkedIn. Follow us also on LinkedIn and Facebook. Veronica, thank you once again for your time, for sharing some of your experience and your advices on working remotely.
Thank you to all the listeners, and thank you especially to you, Frederica, and to Prime Group. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.